Welcome back to Rebirth U, where I'm going to help you dominate Rebirth lobbies through comprehensive tip videos, gameplay breakdowns, and live commentaries. Now, one of the most frustrating places to be in Rebirth is in the blender, where you just keep dying over and over and over again. You can't seem to actually regain. So today, I'm going to give you some tips on how to get out of the blender. Before we do, take a few seconds, comment hashtag Rebirth down in the comments below for the algorithm, and let's get into it. So the format for today's video is I want to be giving you some tips on how to get out of the blender while rolling some gameplay in the background where I was actually in the blender myself. It was a tough game, but we ultimately finished with 16 kills and the dub. Now, let me ask you this. Are you looking to get better at Rebirth? If the answer is yes, make sure you are subscribed down below with the notification bell turned on so you don't miss any videos. I do videos every single day trying to help people like you just get better at Rebirth. And if you want to catch me playing live, doing live gameplay breakdowns or live commentaries, make sure you drop a follow over on Twitch as well. The link is in the description. So the first tip that I have for you is make sure that you are always fighting with loadout guns. And I'm going to tell you exactly how I set myself up to do that in a second. But I just want you to think about a situation real quick that we've all been in before. You're flying back in. You don't have loadout anywhere. All you have is a pistol. You end up running around the bottom of prison for, 30 seconds. You can't find a flare loot gun anywhere, and then you get killed because you only have a pistol. Let's avoid that situation. That is a blender situation right there. You get super frustrated because you're like, if only I had a gun, I would have killed that guy. You're right. So how do we focus on getting and making sure that we have loadout down? Well, the first thing is being preemptive about it. Focusing on your cash flow early so that you can get multiple loadouts down to choose from. This also kind of prevents that situation of people camping loadouts. We've all had that situation where the loadout drops right by prison. There's a team prison roof. They're just sitting there looking at the loadout. And you are now in the blender because you can't get that loadout. So let's be preemptive here. Get multiple loadouts down to choose from. This way we can always fight with loadout guns and prevent a situation where somebody's camping our loadout. Now, the second way I would suggest getting a loadout is, this one's really underrated, scavenger contracts. Scavenger contracts are so underrated in Rebirth. And, not many people do them, but the actual crates go very close together. So it's very easy to take a minute, maybe a minute and a half max, to do a quick scavenger contract and ultimately get enough for a loadout and throw that loadout down so you can again fight with loadout guns. I can't tell you how many times we've been in the blender, and you also have people respawning back in. So, the last person, or for that last, basically, crate, you can fly back in on it, finish it, now you're good to buy loadout, now you're kind of fully regained. So there are certain times where you just have to slow down a little bit and ultimately regain through a scav contract. The third way, and this is again, I think one that is very underrated, always remember where you kill people, because if they have loadout guns, there's always a chance that they didn't fly back in on them. So if you remember where you kill people, especially as you get better and you start, dropping 5, 10, 15, 20 kill games, there's a lot of people that you can choose from. So remember where you kill people. You can ultimately grab their loadout guns, use that to regain and get back into the game. So that was all tip number one, which is make sure that you are always fighting with loadout guns. Now, for tip number two of how to get out of the blender, it is going to be to slow down. And there's two components of this that I want to talk about. The first is going to be gameplay strategy. A lot of the times you end up in the blender because you're playing way too over-aggressive, you're playing way too overconfident, you're just full sending teams and not playing strategically, and then you get unlucky, when in reality, we could have avoided that situation. So slow your game down a little bit, start to push teams strategically again, and focus on how you can get easy kills without taking a lot of damage. Now, for my advanced players who split, and beginner players, listen up as well, because I want you to get to this point eventually, but for my advanced players who split, if you realize that you are absolutely going through it, it is okay to take a step back and say, I need to play with my squad this game. A lot of the times when I'm in the blender, it is because I am playing by myself. I am solo splitting. And in that moment, I have a decision to make. I can keep solo splitting and potentially keep getting frustrated and stay in the blender, or I can say, hey, I need a partner here. I need somebody to roll with me. Let's duo split instead. And generally speaking, if you are duo splitting, you're in a much better position, especially as an advanced player. And you're in a much better position. And, you might have to take a step back and go back to my first point, which is just slow down a little bit. Play a little bit more strategically. But my advanced players who split, I want you to understand, you don't always have to solo split. It's okay to play as a squad. So the second component of tip number two is going to be regaining. Say you have multiple loadouts down and you're able to fly back and then get loadout. A lot of people then immediately go, okay, I need to go find somebody to push. If you are in the blender, slow down. Focus on a full regain. Focus on finding plates. Focus on finding ammo and ultimately getting to a point where you are completely ready to fight again. Because we've all been in that situation where you have your loadout guns, you go challenge somebody, and you lose a 50-50 because you don't have full plates. And now you're in the blender again. Now you have to figure out how you're going to get loadout again, and you're basically stuck in the blender. Slow down a little bit, focus on getting a little bit of reserve ammo and some plates, and then you can start to push again. Now, if you want to go one step further, really focus on cash flow so that you can start to get UAVs up and keep pushing teams strategically. The best way to kind of regain when you're in the blender a lot of times is doing a quick supply run. So you get that cheap item. You can buy plates. You can buy a munitions box. You can buy a UAV. And then now you're back to full strength. You've got your plates. You've got your ammo. You got your UAV up. You got your loadout. And now you push teams strategically. Now you're out of the blender. So there's tips number 1 and 2 for you. Tip number 1 is always fight with loadout guns. Tip number 2 is to slow down, especially when it comes to gameplay strategy and regaining. Now, tip number 3 is the hardest. This is the toughest one to do. That is, don't lose full. It's only going to make everything worse. I know it's so hard when you're in the blender to not lose full, but it only makes matters worse because you get super frustrated. You start pushing even harder and trying to do too much, and then you end up just staying in the blender. So I want you to focus on what you can and cannot control. In terms of what you can control, if you are out of position, if you are missing shots, if you are not using movement to your advantage, those are things that you can control, right? Those are things that you can fix. But if you're getting beaten down with a pistol, if you're getting RPG'd, if you're getting killed by 4 ghosted players in a building, those are things you can't really control. Those are just ratty teams or ratty players, and there's not a whole lot you can do about that. And I need to be better about this myself. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I 100% need to be better about this myself. Not losing full over situations like that. Over people with collie sticks. You know, people beating me down with the pistol. It's annoying. It's frustrating. But I can't lose full over it because it's outside of my control. I need to focus on the things that I can control. You know, not dying because I don't have cover. Stuff like that. So don't lose full over stupid things. Let's go ahead and do a full recap here quickly, and then I'm going to let this end game roll. So tips on how to get out of the blender. Tip number 1, always fight with loadout guns. You want to try to preemptively get multiple loadouts down. Never forget where you kill people just so you can always grab their loadout guns. And if you need to, do a quick scavenger contract to get a loadout down. Tip number 2, slow down, both with your gameplay in terms of, you know, be strategic about who you push, focus on getting easy kills without taking a lot of damage, and also with your regain. Focus on a full regain before you start engaging teams again. And tip number 3 is to not lose full. Do not lose full over things you cannot control. I hope you found today's video helpful. Enjoy the end game here. Let's get better today, and I will see you tomorrow.
We win. Because we beat that team.
Just the moral victories.
Wait, where are they?
I have 1 plate. I need 1 plate.
Oh, there's like so much on the.
Yeah.
There. Are they in this building? No.
Appreciate it.
You need another one?
One's to buy.
If you can. I'll look for some.
It's.
There's gotta be
Yeah, I
some
only
around.
got
Yeah, they're all right there.
You're good. You're good. I'll find.
One's to the buy. One's over there.
Stand by for coordinates.
Yeah, I got the other plate.
Tank for res.
I got it.
Can you drop me some plates as well?
Moving in. Use safe zone.
I don't have any.